Microwave Update. I'm Pat Hindle, and I'm here with my co-host Gary Lerude. In this episode, we continue our coverage of the February satellite and radio communications issue. As we mentioned in the last episode, authors from Ericsson did the cover feature,
right.
And they talked about how GaN power amplifiers are penetrating the commercial point-to-point microwave radio market. And they talk about improved efficiency and give a few examples of that, so it's a great cover story.
Yeah.
And then there was a second technical feature by C.J. Reddy from Altair FICO, and he talks about how to design antennas for IoT applications such as smartwatches. So it's kind of a step-by-step procedure on how you take a chip antenna and design that into a smartwatch application. So it's a good tutorial piece.
Yeah, that was really interesting. We have two articles approved by our editorial review board. The first one really interesting, a 60 gigahertz circular patch antenna. It's done with a artificial magnetic conductor material and then fabricated with TSMC's 0.18 micron CMOS process. So that's interesting because obviously at 60 gigahertz, that's the WiGig band, and you can also use that for different point-to-point applications. So if you can integrate the antenna with the transceiver on a single chip, I mean, you can see the implications of that.
Sure.
The other one, we have a review of millimeter wave active bandpass filters. This is a companion, if you will, to the article we ran last month on passive bandpass filters for millimeter wave. So those are our two articles. How about product features?
Yeah, so we had three of those that we covered. The first was a matched GaN power amplifier for pulsed X-band radar applications, and that's from Sumitomo. And then we had two other ones, correct?
Yes, so one of them, interesting, a YIG-tuned synthesizer. That's what Teledyne Microsystems calls plug and play.
Right.
It's USB controlled, and using a YIG, it has actually better phase noise than most VCOs. So they have various models that cover 2 to 13 gigahertz, so that's of interest. The other one is an 18 to 40 gigahertz transceiver by SpaceX Labs, and here they have one transmit, two receive channels with all the up and down conversion in the transceiver. The only thing that you need to supply is a 10 megahertz reference signal because they have all the LO as well. So those are our two other tech briefs. So how about news?
Yeah, so turning to the news, a ton of 5G news coming out as we head up to Mobile World Congress, announcements from many different entities. One that caught my eye was Verizon's going to offer fixed wireless access 5G trials to more than 10 cities in the US by the end of June.
Impressive.
So in 4 months, we're already going to have 5G being trialed on a pretty large scale. And it's part of the 5G Technology Forum, which has a lot of the heavy hitters, Cisco, Qualcomm, Intel, Ericsson, Samsung, and there's probably a bunch of others.
Right.
And they'll be trying to determine some of the 5G parameters before the standards are applied, I think in hopes of using the ones that work best for their systems.
True.
And then I also saw that Keysight was collaborating with ZTE on test and measurement for 5G applications.
Right.
So ZTE was one of the first involved in the 5G China experimental trials in phase 1, and now their millimeter wave technology prototypes are being used in phase 2, so they're one of the first in that area.
Oh, interesting.
How about you?
Well, I wanted to touch base on an item we talked about last time, the Infineon acquisition of Wolfspeed. It wasn't quite dead last time. Now it's dead.
It's truly dead, yeah.
It's truly dead. Cree canceled or terminated the agreement because they couldn't address the national security issues. So Cree intends to keep Wolfspeed. They say they're going to invest in it to grow the business. So I think that's good news for Wolfspeed. Related to that, kind of ironically, I saw a news release a couple days ago from Saab, who said they are supplying an active phased array radar, also an active antenna jamming pod, both of those using GaN technology. And they say the GaN is not ITAR controlled, so I'm guessing it's probably coming from UMS.
Right.
So the irony there is, you know, the US DoD is trying to protect the American GaN technology, but it still is out in the world. The other thing that I wanted to mention, an interesting announcement from Analog Devices. They have just released a 28 nanometer CMOS node that they're going to use for automotive radar at 77 and 79 gigahertz. And ADI is really making a push in the automotive market. Of course, they've been in this space for probably several decades with their MEMS technology and so forth, but they're now moving to the autonomous driving and the ADAS type systems. So through this CMOS node, So they also recently bought LiDAR technology from a company called Vescent Photonics.
Right.
And so you can now see they're starting to develop sensors for this area. So I think they'll be an interesting company to watch. They're going to be competing with Infineon and NXP.
Yeah, and they've really got all the pieces for a whole system, so they'll be able to sell as a system solution for
Right.
Rider. Yeah.
Right. So that's the news. So should we move on to events? Do you have your bags packed?
Before the events, I thought we have a special guest in the
that's
studio
right.
today. David Vye, previous editor of Microwave Journal and now technical marketing director at National Instruments AWR, sat down with us for a few minutes to discuss some of the trends in the industry. So right now, let's just take a look at a clip from that discussion we had earlier. So how will this new version 13 help designers for small, highly integrated device design?
It's about design flows, and not everyone is making the same thing. So we kind of break it down into what the manufacturing technology is that the end user is concerned with. With integration, what we're saying, before, people used to design a mimic, and that was kind of a one thing, and
right.
You're designing all that, and
Standalone,
we'll put it in a package and you're good to go, and then there's some engineering challenges with that packaging. Well, now people are selecting best in class technologies and integrating them together, so an RFIC, a SIGI chip with a GaN, PA, going into, with BAW SAW filters on a laminate, there's quite a bit of different technologies all being incorporated. So the multi-chip module is one of our big focuses on the design flow solutions for that and how you would model all those things. And there's some challenges because the RFIC would likely be designed in a cadence tool. And so we need to be able to accurately represent that in the AWR design environment. And so we do that now with the ability to incorporate a Spectre netlist, which you would get out of a cadence RFIC design, and import that into and have that as a block in an overall design. We support multi-technology PDKs, process design kits, so you can have this mix and match within one hierarchy of a circuit. The laminate and different types of a mimic chip on top of a PCB package, and so being able to manage all that, different stack ups and different PDKs all within one project is how we do that. And we also are able to incorporate, we now support open access, so you can bring in cadence schematics and plop them directly into a microwave office simulation, as you will. The goal being that also tied with our EM simulation, you're able to model a very complex network of embedded passives or interconnects that tie all those chips together.
Well, it's always great to talk with David Vye, a very interesting guy and fun to talk to.
Yeah, definitely, and a lot of interesting news there.
Yeah, and so events, move on to, I'll be heading out to Mobile World Congress very shortly. Again, tons of news focused around 5G and IoT. We've already seen pre-releases from many of the test and measurement and semiconductor companies. So we've already seen announcements from Qorvo for the RF front-end portfolio. They're extending it for LTE Power Class 2.
Right.
I'm sure Skyworks will be updating their mobile platform.
Right.
We had the ADI announcement about the radar automotive technology. And also, I think the most exciting one I want to catch up on is GlobalFoundries' announcement of 45 nanometer RF SOI CMOS technology. And it'll be really interesting to talk to them and see where that technology is going to take 5G and millimeter wave applications. And on the test and measurement side, we just talked with Keysight. They released a whole bunch of PXI oscilloscopes, digitizers,
10 products.
AWGs, so a lot going on there. And Ritsu had the release of their ultra-portable millimeter wave analyzer, can fit right in the palm of your hand. NI also released the USRP Rio Next Generation. That's used in rapid prototyping. Massive MIMO is a big application for that. And I'm sure we'll be hearing from Rode and Schwartz shortly when we get to the show.
Yeah.
So a ton going on.
You'll be exhausted when you come back.
It'll be a big write-up. How about you for events?
So the week you get back, I'll be heading to Washington to the Satellite Show. Looking forward to catching up with some folks there and hearing some of the presentations. A couple years ago when I was there, Greg Weiler of OneWeb gave a very interesting presentation. And this time I'll get a chance to probably meet the CEO of OneWeb. So looking forward to that. And then we've got EDICon coming up within 2 months. So if you haven't made your flight reservations and hotel reservations, I think it's time to do so and also set up some customer meetings.
Well, I think that about wraps it up.
That wraps it up. We are still looking for sponsors for Frequency Matters, so if your company would like to join us and get some publicity, we'd love to talk to you further about it. And we thank our viewers for watching, and we'll look for you on the next episode.